All right, let's get started. Thank our sponsor, Tangem. You're looking at going into self-custody. This is one of the ways to do it. And the way you can do this is by simply going over, visiting the Tangem website, and you can grab their cards, which is a self-custody wallet. And it's very simple. Just click that Get Tangem. You're going to have a 3-card option or a 2-card option. Get the 3-card option. It's very simple. You have an extra. It's easy to do. Super slick app. You have your card present, and boom, you've got self-custody, and you can start doing that on your own right now, today. All you have to do is click the link down below to get started. All right, let's get into a few points I want to hit on, and I want to open with Coinbase at Davos. I'll explain what Davos is. If many of you guys don't know what the World Economic Forum is, we'll talk about that in a second, but listen into this clip.
So, Alicia, I think you've actually launched an international exchange, right, since December.
Absolutely.
I think it was early December. Can you give us an idea, again, of numbers, of flows, of how exciting that is?
We can't talk about numbers quite yet. We'll be introducing earnings in February.
Can you give us a glimpse into what else you have in store for us in 2024 in terms of new products?
You know, 2023 was a big year because we announced asset management for the first time. We announced derivatives. We have many new products that just got launched that we're now looking to grow. So I don't expect 2024 to be a big announcement around products. I expect us to see expansion and growth in many of our existing products, but we've just got a toehold in.
Okay, so this is your first Davos. What are you most excited about? You have like a million meetings.
We do. What I'm really excited about is Davos will really help us with our Go Broad and Grow Deep international strategy. There's many global leaders here. There's an opportunity to talk about crypto regulation. There's an opportunity to talk about how crypto will really benefit their users and their markets, and how Coinbase is a trusted counterparty, and how we bring a different brand to the markets. And so we're really looking forward to the meetings that we have on the schedule.
All right, so a couple of things that they talked about there. One, of course, global expansion. The fact, though, that Coinbase, and they do have earnings coming out, which is going to be a big point of contention, I think, within the markets, and really understanding where things are going to be going. But there's two things here. One, Coinbase at Davos, at WEF, the World Economic Forum. This is going to create a bigger connection in the crypto space overall, and I'll explain what that might mean. The biggest narrative, though, that I think will be coming out of WEF is what you're going to see in real-world assets. And this is just an example of where real-world assets have come over the past little bit. From 2023, you can kind of see where it really kind of got on the map and the explosion that we saw. I've had many executives on talking about RWAs and really what their potential are and why this could be absolutely one of the biggest things in the financial sector. So this is a big factor, and I think it's also one of those narratives that is going to be playing out very positively, and some of the projects, of course, that are tied to that. And I want you to think about, the connection between Charles Schwab, the connection between JP Morgan. What chain does all that? Well, it's Avalanche. So you can kind of start to put the dots together and you can see some things. I want to get over to another thing that could be a big direction that everybody's kind of been pointing to, but we haven't necessarily seen it just happen just yet, and that is regulation. Here's Jeremy Allaire from Circle talking a little bit about what that might look like. Listen in.
What are the chances for some stablecoin regulation this year in the US?
I think there's a very good chance of that. And I think what you're seeing is a desire from the administration. I think you're seeing a desire from the Treasury, the Fed, but both chambers of Congress and certainly on a bipartisan basis. You can refer to Chair Gensler's comments for what he thinks it signals or not. I think my view is that there's progress being made in Congress. There's progress being made in terms of the courts looking at the law, and there's progress being made from regulators in every major market in the world. You're seeing progress on stablecoin legislation. Stablecoin laws are going to be on the books in almost every major global financial market in 2024. And so that's a backdrop for growth. And we're excited to be able to continue to invest into that. There's momentum. And I think there's a very good chance of seeing this pass into law this year.
All right. So he hits on, his opinion, obviously being, the CEO of Circle. He has to have that opinion. But at the same time, you think about what he just said, and that is the amount of regulatory pressure that the markets are really giving our lawmakers. And that really boils down to what we saw in the ETF approval, what we've seen in the courts, all the things that have really continued to push our lawmakers into a position. And it also starts to move money into, guess where? Into the lobbyist of DC. And when you have lobbyists that have money to be spent, this is where we start to see action in a quick way. So could we get a surprise coming into regulatory scenarios, especially around stablecoins in January? That's one thing we are watching very closely. And if you think about this timing, what's happening with WEF, World Economic Forum, and then you look at some of the agenda over there. Here's a good example. World Economic Forum annual meeting kind of shows some of the topics. This, of course, is a topic called Clear-Eyed about crypto. And if you look at who's involved in this, right there's Brad Garlinghouse. You've got Sonasign, of course, from Grayscale, etc. This could be one of the first breakouts that we've seen at WEF. Other things that are happening within the XRP ecosystem, of course, is Evernode just got launched. And of course, remember, this has been a little bit under the radar. Some of you only zoom in on this a little bit under the radar, but essentially, this really takes XRP to another level in terms of opportunity. If you haven't checked out our video, we actually did a full video on the Evernode potential for the XRP ledger and what that might look like. So go back and look at that, kind of get briefed on this, but this could be one of those that comes out with a bit of a surprise. Could we see XRP actually benefit from what we'll see with the Evernode launch? So lots happening there. Here's a little bit more explanation because they did get listed on a centralized exchange being BitTrue. This is a hard token to get to too. So if you are an XRP holder and you were able to go out and claim those, there were some airdrops coming in on Evernode that would enable you to do that. That was back in December. For if you missed it, I understand that. But the point being is that this is now launching and we are seeing potential opportunity here for XRP. So this is another one that we're going to be watching in January going forward. Now, you've got other things happening over at WEF, and this is Hedera. Hedera is plastering their banners, their brand name pretty much everywhere within the Davos location. And I think this is just indicative of what's happening with blockchain, meaning great branding, companies that understand how to connect to the global elite and what that might mean for real world assets going forward. Because I think that's going to be the narrative going forward that really kind of comes from all of this. Here's Hedera's post right here. We're excited to announce the new partnership with Hitachi US, which joined Hedera, the council. If you haven't watched our videos on Hedera, they have basically, I think it's 39 members in the council, governance council, that makes up some of the biggest companies in the world. So go back and or learn a little bit about Hedera. We've had Mance Harmon on many times, and they get they get it. And I think the key here with Hedera, this is one of those projects that we've watched for quite some time, is they've started to plug into the right, companies. The one thing that still is missing, in my opinion, is this connection to the retail world, because a lot of what they're working with is the enterprise side. Hitachi is another good example of this, but this is their latest governance council member, so that's good for Hedera. All right, so here's a tweet talking about JUP in the Solana ecosystem, and about every swap that you're probably making out there within Phantom is happening on Jupiter. So this is going to be will be one for the ages in terms of the size. This could be the biggest airdrop ever, and everybody's going to be watching this one. This could be making mainstream media. It's so big. But this was talking a little bit about the potential of, is Jupiter going to build the thing of Larry Fink's dreams around real world assets, what we'll see around centralized exchanges, and the tokenization of securities, and what we will know of the modern monetary system and the financial system going forward. And Larry Fink talks about this often, so much so I think he's kind of in on the gain of where this is going. One thing they did talk about, which I thought was interesting here, good example, imagine a world where highly liquid markets, Forex stocks, RWAs, all crypto assets wrapped in a narrative, commodities all sit in one single state of machine. You can transact across all of them in a single atomic transaction, taking 1 second and very little money. That is the beauty of what blockchain brings to the financial system. And I think Fink understands this. This step of the Bitcoin ETF, this is just one of many that's going to be happening. Further into other tweets. All right, so here's where Jupiter's talking about the airdrop. This all will occur on the 31st of January, 10 a.m. Eastern. Now, if this gets pulled off, and this will be kind of the balance of it, because there will be a potential that they could run into some problems. And one thing that they've talked about in their release, and he goes into a very long thread here on X about what the potentials are, both success and failure. But the point is that this could open up an opportunity, on Jupiter. If you guys aren't ready on Phantom, you should be, because this one will be interesting. And if you look at Jupiter in comparison to other exchanges out there, potentials, compared to just Uniswap alone, the opportunity here is going to be pretty significant. If it fails, could be a great opportunity to get in on it. If it's successful, it's only going to draw a lot of attention to what the potential of Jupiter. And of course, this is only going to push into the Solana ecosystem as a whole. So Solana is a great position to be in right now with Jupiter coming in. And just to give you an example, if this thing goes out to $1, which let's assume that these are the two potential options of failure or success, around $1, or let's say it doesn't succeed as much, then we could see a potential entry point around 50 cents. So that's an opportunity that could open up for people to get in at least, and maybe see a correction and be able to jump into this after the airdrops start to occur. So once all the press dies down, all that kind of flows into it. All right, so if we do get the dollar, that's where we get into the $1 billion market cap potential here. And if you compare this to something, say, like a Uniswap, good example right here, market cap, Uniswap, almost 4 billion holding out there. So Uniswap is a good example to compare to what could happen within Jupiter and the Solana ecosystem. So all this very positive, because remember, Uniswap ETH ecosystem, think about that, the Uniswap of Solana. Just kind of compare that way. So big opportunities here for sure. All right, so another thing in January, on the 17th, we'll get Coinbase's motion to deny for judgment. This will all come together. And there's going to be 4. We're going to have Meta Lawman later on this week to talk about this. But there's going to be 4, he thinks, 4 different potential options here. As the judge denies the Coinbase motion, that's one. Let me kind of zoom in on that for you. That would be a low bar for the SEC to win. The SEC has to show that they allegedly had facts making their claim plausible. That's number 1. Number 2, judge grants Coinbase a motion with prejudice. This means that the entire case is dismissed. It's all over at the district. And they move on to possibly an appeal court. Option 3, judge grants a motion without prejudice, and the SEC gets a chance to amend. And then, of course, if the court rules the SEC lacks authority from Congress to regulate crypto exchanges, there would be no point allowing them to do an amendment in the first place, so there's a win there. And then option 4, judge grants motion with respect to the claims relating to the 13 crypto tokens, but denies with the whole idea around staking, because you could see kind of a half win. Either of these, I think there's about a 25% chance here of one of these that could be a big catalyst on what could happen with Coinbase. Now, what does this affect overall? Think about it. If you see a win here, or at least the idea of a win coming out, you're going to see Coinbase stock one skyrocket. You're going to see all sorts of tokens start to see their way toward listing. And if we do win, or if Coinbase does win on the staking side, you're going to see staking come back to all these exchanges, which is going to explode the market in all points, whether it's new tokens being listed and for sale here in the US, staking going live, or the potential for Coinbase and other entities starting to see the big advantage for this. So again, this is all happening in January. Further into this, all right, let's go into another one. This also is going to be happening, and that is that now we've got senators that are going to be reviewing what happened on the SEC hack. So this, to me, is just another benefit of getting regulation in line. So another potential of they're just saying, hey, we just need to get this outlined, let's get it done. And most likely, I think it's going to most likely be a stablecoin regulation first. Other things that are happening here in January, Xbox getting ready to drop their new release. And of course, this happens on January 18th, so you'll be able to turn in and learn a little bit more about what they're doing on Xbox. Now, could this go into more VR? Because remember, you got a big deal with Apple launching their Vision Pro, CES just happened. So we saw a lot of VR technology being released at CES. I think this starts to play to a narrative that we've talked about before, which is cloud compute, the potential for AI, and also the potential for VR tokens within the crypto space to start looking at potentials here. And I'll talk about some of those and what that might look like. I want to get into the Vision Pro, because what it might mean for crypto, actually, I think it's a bigger potential for crypto than a lot of people are giving it. Listen into this next clip. This talks about mainstream Well, it's the mainstream media talking about Vision Pro and what kind of impact it will have. Listen in.
And what about the Vision Pro? That comes out soon. Couldn't that be a force? All in all, it's a disappointing piece for those of us who are Apple aficionados.
I think in the near term, Vision Pro is not likely to be a needle mover for Apple.
Is there a needle mover coming?
I definitely don't think it's the Vision Pro.
From Bank of America,
I would say kind of net neutral, which is what our rating is. It's not going to move the needle for numbers in the near term.
All right, so you can see mainstream kind of seeing this lukewarm. But if you go further into this, it starts to get a little bit more interesting. You have to dig a little deeper. Listen to this next clip.
Apple is once again stealing the show here at CES by just simply announcing when a new product will be available, which will be available on February 2nd, and you can actually pre-order it on January 19th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 a.m. Pacific.
Apple's only going to look like produce initially 60 to 80,000 units of Vision Pro for the February 2nd release. He believes that the Vision Pro will sell out soon after the release.
Apple is now scheduling training sessions for some employees to be flown out to California, and training is set to begin in the middle of January. Each employee is going to be trained for 2 days, and that it's a high-stakes endeavor. The device needs to be customized for each person, and a poor fitting could ultimately ruin the user experience. Every step will be carefully orchestrated, including how retail employees approach a customer and how they place a device on the user's head. Which then, it increasingly sounds like the Vision Pro customers will be pushed to pick up the device in-store, even if they place it online. I think this is going to sell out extremely quickly, even though the price point is $3,500, and it's only going to be US-based. People are going to be flying from all over the country to come to the US to be able to order this thing, which is absolutely unreal.
All right, so the point is this could be one of the only products that's ever sold out for Apple. And if you think about what that means as a collectible item or just, a part of history and what its implication on the rest of the VR market could have as well, because this is going to set the tone for a lot of games being developed along with all sorts of different projects going to be aligning to this. That, I think, is the thing that a lot of people are missing overall. Speaking of over, we'll talk about over the reality. They're, of course, ready for it right now. So if you're tracking some of the VR tokens, we'll call them out there, over is one that we're tracking and have been looking at for quite some time. Actually, this was one of the tokens that we looked at in its last run to fame. And if you look at the charts, just to give an example of where this went, when the Vision Pro announced, this was back in May of this year, this is where over exploded to. All right, that's pretty insane. And we see it right now, of course, starting to move. This, I think, is anticipation for what we'll see with the Apple release this week. So maybe this has some short-term run opportunities, or possibly does this go absolutely ballistic with the potential of what over could be within the Vision Pro. So lots happening there. Other things that will happen with the Vision Pro is around retail. And this is the spatial computing, which is their new terminology for trying to define and explain what's happening. But the point is that there's going to be a lot of opportunity here for projects like Render because of the ability for cloud compute. And this is retail. Let's just show an example here of, how you might be able to see what spatial computing is in terms of retail. There's a certain level of this done at VR right now, but nothing to what I think we're getting ready to see going forward. So lots of opportunity here for retail, for sure. So I want to go to another clip. Who else could be benefiting in a big way? We had the Parallel team on not too long ago. This is a clip from that interview. Listen in to what they had to say. A tweet from you guys. This was the Apple Vision Pro test exploration, and you're already, making a lot of these kinds of advancements.
We are ahead of the game in that regard. It's also worth mentioning, actually, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's also worth mentioning that a couple of our team members were key elements to Apple's team building those AR glasses that everyone's talking about, and we were able to steal them away, and they've been helping us with the AR elements of our environment. So I think that we'll be ready when the Apple headset is ready. I can't wait to get my head onto one. So they wouldn't even dip their toe into the space if they didn't think there was a chance of success, and they have a very high success rate when it comes to new technology. So if they can't bring it en masse, then it's probably a high time for a bunch of us to pack it in. But we should all just be ready both ways.
All right, so Koji was talking about that, and I believe that they're a little bit secretive of how they go about it. This is the Prime token. If you guys don't know how Parallel is connected here, But the opportunity here, again, could be one of those that if Apple does succeed with this, it opens up the gateway for so much opportunity within games, productivity applications, what we'll see in retail, all sorts of functional habits that I think will start to shift. Think about how mobile impacted society. This is where I think we're going. Now, it is very early. There's only, I think 70,000 of these, so it's not going to be out everywhere. It will be very early, much like what, if you think about it from the extent of how Oculus kind of hit the market. But this is a little bit different. This is the Apple ecosystem. So a lot to be said for that. All that happening in January. Another thing to watch here, of course, is Meta is getting ready to drop their Q4 results in January. So be ready, because this is, as this Wall Street is kind of claiming this after a stunning reversal of fortune. And the reason they're saying that is because of this chart right here. This is the stunning reversal of fortune, where Meta was at its bottom back here in October of 22. And look at this nothing but up number at 300% gain on Meta over that period of time. Now, you remember that everybody thought that Zuckerberg was out of his mind, that this was going to be a lost cause, that this was they ended up laying off tons of people. Everybody thought that this guy was out of his mind, and look where we are now with Meta. And likelihood to see an unbelievable number coming in from just a huge, and I still think suppressed holiday season with what Meta is going to be able to do with this. All right, so ApeChain gets launched on the 31st, so that's coming up as well. With that, you've got the potential of other side also causing some action in the market, along with what we'll see around ApeCoin. So listen in. I'm going to go to another clip real quick on other side where it is currently. So listen in. All right, so that's coming up here in early February. So lots to track down. We're not done yet. I got 2 more items. All right, so another topic, of course, is OpenSea developing their 2.0 platform upgrade. This is being the potential for displaying ticketing NFTs, also Solana NFTs, and ordinals will be part of this. And again, this is a big competition to what's happening in the Magic Eden ecosystem. So also another benefit for Solana. Last but not least, of course, is CryptoSlant. Some of the biggest movers, as you can see, Dokio right there. Let me zoom in on that for you guys. The #1 transaction collection here for sure. So that is another reason Avalanche, I think, is going to continue to see some success here. If you look, let me kind of zoom out on this and look at the 30-day. And then just show you guys a little bit here. Let's go over here, zoom in, and you can kind of see right here, Avalanche #5 right now. Look at this growth though. This is the 30-day. So another reason that this starts to move in all these areas. So we've talked about a lot of tokens, a lot of projects. January is a big month. It is a big month for narratives to really kind of paint out what the potential is for 2024. But I think it's also a very critical month for some of these major movements, whether it's in the AI space, the VR space, the cloud compute space, what we'll see in some of these ecosystems, Avalanche, Solana, etc., all pointing in the right direction, and that is a bullish 2024. So if you guys think it's going to be a bullish 24, make sure and smash the like button right now. If you think it's going to be the year for crypto, hit that like button, and of course, subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to follow me, it's out there on X, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.